March 24, 1999. Deep underground, Europe's safest tunnel turned into a death trap, not by flames, but by systems doing exactly what they were designed to do. Engineers had planned for small car fires, never imagining a single truck could overwhelm every calculation. When fresh air was pumped in, it fed an inferno and sealed hundreds inside, proving that safety itself can kill. How did a tunnel meant to protect become a perfect enclosure for disaster? When the Mont Blanc Tunnel opened in the 1960s, its designers saw it as a modern feat of engineering, a single 11.6-kilometer tube carved through the Alps linking France and Italy. The safety envelope they created was built around what they believed to be the most likely threats: a stalled car, a minor engine fire, maybe a small truck catching a light. The tunnel's ventilation system, a network of ducts, fans, and extraction points, was calibrated for these modest risks. Fires were expected to be short-lived and limited in size, the kind of event that could be handled before it spread. At the heart of this approach was the concept of longitudinal ventilation. Fans would push air along the tunnel's length, clearing exhaust fumes and, in the event of a fire, moving smoke away from vehicles and people. Emergency shelters, spaced roughly every 600 meters, were designed to withstand 2 hours of heat and smoke, giving refuge until help arrived. Extraction points set 300 meters apart were intended to draw out polluted air, not to contain a major blaze. In the decades after the tunnel opened, traffic patterns changed in ways those original plans never anticipated. The number of small vehicles more than doubled, and the share of heavy goods vehicles, especially refrigerated trucks carrying high-energy cargo, grew sharply. By the late 1990s, the tunnel was a busy artery for European freight, with trucks hauling everything from flour to margarine, cargoes that burn hotter and longer than any car fire the original engineers had modeled. Yet the core safety logic remained anchored to the past. The ventilation system's capacity, the spacing of extraction points, and even the design of emergency shelters all reflected a world where fires would be small, brief, and isolated. There was little consideration for what would happen if a fully loaded heavy goods vehicle caught fire, producing a sustained high heat release and dense toxic smoke over kilometers of enclosed space. The tunnel's systems were not built to handle a scenario where the fire's energy and the fuel load would overwhelm every assumption. When engineers described the system, they spoke of clearing the air and offering protection for the time it took first responders to arrive. But the reality of 1999, long queues of trucks, evolving cargo, and rising traffic had quietly moved the tunnel far outside its original design envelope. The systems themselves worked as intended. The problem was never the machinery or the materials. The problem was the gap between what was imagined in the control room and what was actually rolling through the tunnel, every hour of every day. Inside the Italian control room, operators confronted a wall of uncertainty. The fire had been detected, smoke alarms were sounding, and the tunnel's protocols called for action. Drawing on decades-old procedures, the staff engaged the ventilation system from the Italian portal, injecting fresh air into the tunnel. The intention was to dilute smoke, improve visibility, and support any drivers or rescuers approaching from the Italian side. Manuals and past training reinforced the logic. More fresh air should mean a safer, more breathable environment. But the atmosphere in the tunnel was already unstable. Natural airflow that morning ran from Italy toward France, a gentle current carrying air through a tube 11.6 kilometers long. When the Italian fans roared to life, this current intensified. Instead of dispersing smoke locally, the system created a forced draft effect. Oxygen surged toward the fire, feeding the flames and supercharging combustion. The burning truck, loaded with margarine and flour, responded with a release of heat and toxic gases that far exceeded the scenarios the system had been built to handle. As the fresh air swept in, hot, dense smoke was pushed relentlessly down the length of the tunnel. The longitudinal flow, now driven by both weather and machinery, transformed the tunnel's central section into a conduit for heat and poison. Vehicles stranded on the French side, unable to move forward or back, found themselves in the direct path of this expanding hazard. Within minutes, the smoke front advanced hundreds of meters, overtaking cars and trucks whose occupants had little warning and nowhere to go. Operators had no real-time feedback on the consequences of their decision. The tunnel's sensor network was limited, and visibility from cameras vanished as smoke thickened. Communication between the French and Italian control rooms was fragmented, with each side acting on partial information and separate assumptions. There was no unified command or automated scenario to override human improvisation. The fans did exactly what they were told, but the underlying logic was flawed. The system, designed to protect, became an accelerant, moving lethal smoke and heat toward those trapped inside. Post-incident analyses would confirm the sequence in control room logs. The Italian Fresh Air Command, intended as a safeguard, was the critical operational choice that turned ventilation from a protective system into a vector of death. The physical reality inside the tunnel, airflow, oxygen, heat, and toxic gases, responded to that command, not to the expectations of its designers or operators. In the end, the machinery worked as it was built to. The disaster unfolded because the real hazard was never the one imagined in the manuals. Heat inside the Mont Blanc Tunnel rose with a speed and intensity that left no margin for human survival, even far from the burning truck. Forensic specialists studying the aftermath described a corridor where temperature and toxic gases became the primary agents of death. Near the fire, gas temperatures reached close to 1,000 degrees Celsius, hot enough to deform metal and destroy vehicle interiors within minutes. But even hundreds of meters away, the effects were deadly. The tunnel's ventilation, designed to keep air moving, instead drove a wave of superheated smoke-laden air through the trapped line of vehicles. Toxicology reports from the investigation revealed that most victims died not from direct burns, but from inhaling a mixture of carbon monoxide and hydrogen cyanide. These gases, produced by burning polyurethane insulation and synthetic cargo, reached lethal concentrations rapidly. In some cases, carboxyhemoglobin levels in the blood pointed to incapacitation within minutes of smoke exposure. Hydrogen cyanide, released as the refrigerated trailer's foam insulation burned, proved just as fatal. Its presence in the air meant that even a few breaths could cause confusion, loss of consciousness, and death. Temperature sensors and post-event reconstructions showed that survivable conditions vanished quickly, not just at the fire's edge, but along much of the tunnel's length. The lethal envelope expanded relentlessly as hot smoke filled the void above the road surface and radiated heat downward. No amount of distance from the burning truck could guarantee safety. The physical reality was stark. The tunnel became a space where heat and poison spread faster than any person could escape. Between 10:46 and 11 o'clock, the tunnel's environment changed faster than anyone inside could adapt. Emergency shelters spaced every 600 meters were supposed to offer safe refuge for 2 hours. As smoke thickened and temperatures climbed, reaching those shelters became an ordeal in itself. In the chaos, drivers left their vehicles, some clutching keys or personal belongings, searching for doors they could barely see. The tunnel's geometry offered no cues, just a featureless, smoke-filled corridor, with visibility collapsing to zero within minutes. Communication systems failed as the fire damaged cables and power supplies. Radios crackled with static or fell silent. Public address systems, where they functioned, delivered garbled or conflicting instructions. Operators in the control rooms, unable to see inside the tunnel, relied on incomplete sensor data and outdated assumptions. By 10:52, the opportunity for coordinated evacuation had vanished. Some drivers hesitated, hoping for rescue. Others followed the airflow, instinctively moving with the perceived fresh air, only to walk deeper into the toxic plume. An operations log analyst later reconstructed the timeline. In less than 15 minutes, the window for escape had closed. Survivors who reached shelters did so by chance or quick action. Many others never found a door. The rest, stranded in vehicles or caught between exits, were overtaken by smoke and lost orientation. In this span, the system designed to protect offered no guidance, no clear direction, just a narrowing margin for survival that closed minute by minute. Today, over 400 million vehicles cross European tunnels each year, many through systems still defined by yesterday's assumptions. As traffic grows and cargoes evolve, rare events become inevitable. Safety is not just design, it is questioning every premise before tragedy forces the answer. How safe is safe enough when the unexpected is the norm?